We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
In studio with my guy, Mike Renner. I feel a lot better today than I did the last Monday because we were coming off, it was just an absolute ripper of a weekend in Vegas. I spewed out the smelling salts, by the way, here. Some people think that we don't do the smelling salts and they think it's actually bad substances.
It's just ammonia, yeah.
It's just ammonia.
Yeah. But
you wanted to start the podcast off today with some stories.
Yeah. So we told some about Vegas,
maker.
But like my brain was like empty at that point on Wednesday. I was pretty low until about honestly Friday of last week. It was a long weekend that we had, but then some came to mind that we didn't get to tell. That were good, wholesome stories enough that we could tell on the podcast.
Is an aggressive play, but yeah.
What I want to start off with was fantastic. This was Saturday. We're going to Encore Beach Club for the day. We have like a cabana reservations there, and you come in to Encore. We're waiting in line, and you're like a little lagging behind, and you had had like maybe 4 drinks at this point. You were not drunk, but you were in the mood to get after it. And so you roll into Encore, the hotel, mind you, shirtless, with sunglasses on and a backpack, and you're walking like you're Kyle Pitts. Like you're rolling in, like rocking back and forth. And I'm in line already, and I see you coming in, and I'm like, oh my God. I like see the bouncers looking at you, and I'm like, this guy's not gonna get in. And like I'm just like, so you come up to us, and I'm like, dude, reel it in, like calm down. You're like, you're making a scene right now, and you're like, I don't give a shit, I'll make a scene. And you weren't even, like I said, you weren't even drunk. You were just ready to party. And they don't let you in. They say, hey, your buddy's too drunk. We're not going to let him in. I'm like, I can like, honest to God truth. If he was drunk, he'd be leaning the other way. He'd be leaning forward, not backwards. But they don't let you in. Hour and a half later, we have to convince them. We have to talk them down. They were going to not let you in at all.
So they don't let me in. And I'm pissed. So I remember I wasn't drunk, but I remember just being in the moment. And then I feel like I come to right when they're like, hey, you can't come in. I'm like immediately sober. I'm like, oh man, come on, dude. I'm not that drunk. And then my buddy, big shout out to Connor Price, another PFF employee, sees me getting dogged. He comes out of line. He says, hey, go have some waters at the bar. We'll let you in to 2:15. We go grab 6 vodka sodas in like 45 minutes, light it up, and then I come back at 2:15, and we eventually get in. Yeah. 45 minutes late, but we get in, and that was a tough scene. But another tough scene, I'm going to tell this one, or you can tell it better than I do, but you send in the group chat at one day that you got kicked out of a Panda Express.
That was about 8 hours later. I sent in the group chat, I got kicked out of Panda Express. Because this was afterwards, starving, haven't eaten anything all day. We just spent 8 hours outside drinking.
I can't believe it.
And I'm like, all right, I got to go eat. And I just like walk away from everybody. And I'm like, I'm going to Panda Express because the Panda Express in Vegas are hot because they're always like fresh food. I don't know. I like to go to Panda Express in Vegas.
Panda Expresses in Vegas are hot.
They are though. And so I'm in line at Panda Express. I believe I'm shirtless and also maskless at this point. And that was the problem.
Savage.
I wait through about a 10, 15 minute line here, get to the front, and they're like, hey, you don't have a mask, we can't serve you. And I'm just like, it's all right. I'll just take the teriyaki chicken. Like, it's cool. There's a big ass fucking plate glass between all of us. It's not a big deal. Like, the bad part just happened. I just waited in line maskless. And full disclosure, I've been vaccinated and also had COVID. So there's no chance that I'm giving it to anyone. So I don't really mind that. I just want my fucking Panda Express. And they're like, no, you have to have a mask to get served. And I'm like, all right, do you have a mask? Like, can you give me one to serve me? And they're like, no. And I'm like, all right, I'll just take the chicken. They're like, we're not going to give you anything. I'm like, I've literally been talking to you guys, and the amount of time I've been spewing like COVID, possibly. Yeah. I don't actually have COVID, but I've been spewing particles this whole time. In the meantime, you could have just given me the teriyaki chicken that I wanted. Alas, no teriyaki chicken, and I got kicked out of that Panda Express.
That's incredible. Kicked out of a Panda Express. I'm kicked out of Encore Beach Club. I had another story for you guys. It was a chick that one-upped my first date story. She had a worse first date than I did, but I'll bring that up on the Thursday episode. Let's get right into the listener mailbag. Let's get right into the listener mailbag here, starting with Brunch Wrap 42. This is a long one, so I'm going to power through. Is nailing the right quarterback more valuable than maximizing high picks? Based off everything we've seen, yes. And you guys always preach QB or trade down. Imagine had the Browns pick Trubisky in 2017 and Baker the next year. One pick would eliminate the need for the other, but assuming they adopt the PFF ideology and just keep trying at the position, it would happen. Sure, they would have their QB, but they would have also missed on the generational pass rusher that was Myles Garrett. Also, there is a pretty big drop-off between picking a quarterback like Darnold third overall and a few years later not even getting a first in return. Same situation is possible, but not likely for Miami. Do you draft a QB if one falls to 6 and trade Tua for a pick that's nowhere near as valuable as the one you used to pick him? Or do you go best player available at a position of value and try to retain the value of that 5th overall pick on Tua? Assuming they go with the former and miss and try again at the quarterback in the following draft, isn't that wasting valuable draft capital? If they do nail the position, they essentially lost value of two top 6 picks. All hypothetical, but testing the limits of your ideas. Also, you're not allowed to use sunken cost to answer.
Okay. I don't think this is going to have any sunk cost fallacy to it. My answer here. It's your evaluation is the thing that matters most. How do you evaluate this quarterback prospect, whether it's Justin Fields in this year's draft and you're the Panthers? Do you evaluate him to be a better quarterback prospect than the guy you had that hasn't shown any more promise in the NFL? So say Justin Fields versus Tua. Who did you have as the better quarterback prospect coming out? Because that incremental change at that position is worth more than any other position you can add to that roster. Now, to some degree. Now, if there's a Chase Young, we're not going to blow up Washington football team for taking a guy like that. If there's a Kyle Pitts, like if there's this generational dude, by all means. But if you're sitting there and your debate is Leonard Fournette or another quarterback to be better than Blake Bortles back in, 2017, you go back to your evaluations of those quarterbacks coming out. And that's why it's important to have historical context with any evaluation of a player, and especially towards the top of the draft, because not all number 2 picks are created equally. Sometimes it's Luke Jokel, sometimes it's Chase Young. Like you're not always going to have that guy sitting there for you. So, in my opinion, it comes down to which one did you have higher rated coming out. If you thought Fields was better quarterback prospect, you thought Trey Lance was a better quarterback prospect, you take that because that incremental change is always going to be more valuable.
Absolutely. I think we said that as soon as Miami was in a position to pick at number 3. I said if you have a quarterback available to you at 3 that you feel is a better quarterback prospect than Tua, you take him. That's it. That's the end of the discussion. Yeah. It's not sunk cost. It's not what you already spent. You have to go get a better quarterback. You have available a better quarterback, you get him every single time. That's how it has to work. That's exactly how it has to work.
But then it's also your sitting there with Myles Garrett on the board. If you thought that quarterback class was not, and a lot of people did think that quarterback class was not like any sure thing franchise guy at the top. Mm-hmm. There's no, you don't have to take one. Like you don't have to take Geno Smith in the first round. You don't have to take,
you really don't.
EJ Manuel. You don't have to. Just that one doesn't come along every single year. It doesn't. So there's arguments for both sides of that coin there to a degree.
This is from JBG185. My question to you is, who is the next big-time player to come out of Mississippi State? We have some big-name defenders like Brule, Emerson, and Forbes. We also have Charles Cross at left tackle. Are any of these players or any other shaping up to make some noise in future drafts?
I don't want to shit on this guy too bad, but it's like it's not a lot. It says next big-time player come out of Mississippi State, poses as if it's like Alabama or it's just like every year. Oh, who's the next one?
Who's the
pipeline of Mississippi State? Mississippi State's turning it. Like I like that they got Leach there. Solid program, but to me, I think it's Martin Emerson. I think this guy's going to be a real deal cornerback prospect. Obviously, I put him in the first round of a mock draft. True sophomore last year, had 82.9 coverage grade in the SEC. That's pretty damn good. Only 306 yards allowed on. They played a full season because SEC played a full year. Not every conference did. So that to me would be the guy. I know Charles Cross was in the first round of some mocks that I saw. I wasn't as high on him from what I watched, but Martin Emerson's the guy I say is the next big thing. Next in the Mississippi State pipeline. No DTs in that pipeline though that we talked about.
Before we get to the next question, quick break from Western and Southern. In these uncertain times, life is full of questions. Like, when should I start thinking about life insurance? But however difficult these questions may be, Western and Southern can help you answer them. Backed by over 130 years of experience, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind. Western and Southern Financial Group, life insurance, retirement, and investments. Compensated endorser, products issued by number companies of Western and Southern Financial Group, Cincinnati, Ohio. Got to pay the bills here, Mike. Got to pay the bills. Next thing here is Shaq Taneo 1. Compared to when I first started watching football, late 90s, to now, almost every position is much more athletic and most times 15 to 20 pounds lighter on average than from those times. A 250-pound linebacker in the year 2001 plays D-line now. A 225-pound safety then plays linebacker now. QBs are sub 6 foot, are considered 5-star high school prospects and going first overall in the draft. That used to be blasphemy. All positions but offensive line. Offensive line is just as big, and seemingly haven't had changed body types in the same way to be successful, despite their direct adversary and edge players being also smaller and faster now. My question is, when will a different body type succeed for offensive linemen? Will it ever? Will there ever be a 6'4", 275-pound guy playing left tackle and being able to fully match athleticism with edge players as opposed to the 6'5", 330 that I see so much now?
I don't think it will. And here's why. I have a take on kind of all this that was said there about guys getting smaller. So that I don't think they've gotten less muscular. They've gotten leaner. Like a linebacker, the 250-pound linebacker, he doesn't play defensive end now. That guy just loses 20 pounds of fat and plays linebacker still. Like that's what it's gone to. Like, you see the guys nowadays are much more cut up at the linebacker position, at the defensive end position, than they were back in the 90s. Part of that's obviously weight training is proliferated at a younger age, like throughout high school football, middle school, whatever, down into the younger ages. Guys have better weight training and into college. And part of that is just the name of the game defensively is speed. You got to be faster. So I don't think the explosiveness has changed. Like, explosiveness has taken the place of size. Like, you want to be more explosive on that side of the ball. The strength aspect hasn't changed a bit for those respective positions. It's the mass aspect that's changed. So at the same time, you're an offensive lineman, you still have to deal with super explosive dudes. That 250-pounder can still bull rush the shit out of you. So you still have to have mass. You still have to yourself have mass to be able to deal with that, because you're the one going backwards on pass protection plays. You're not the one going forward. So you're going to have to anchor. Whereas they don't necessarily, the run game and anchoring for them has become an afterthought. You don't need to anymore. That's not a big ass deal.
They're no longer going backwards.
Yes, exactly. So forwards, explosiveness has become at a premium for a defensive side of the football. So I don't think that means that we're all of a sudden going to see tackles and offensive linemen get smaller. I think that's a position where you're going to need that. Now, you can play lighter in this day and age. I think you're seeing guys able to do so, but it's never going to see the same transformation we see in the defensive side of the ball. I
was having this conversation with Sam Monson on the NFL podcast today. I was filling in for Steve Palazzolo, but the New England Patriots are kind of in a prime position to kind of zag while the rest of the NFL zigs, in that they have a big, beefy, mauling offensive line. 2 tight end sets are going to be heavy. Cam Newton, a big rushing quarterback. Yeah. Like, they could come at these defenses that are trying to get lighter and only playing 1 or 2 linebackers in the box, and even those guys are 215 pounds, and try and lay the wood a little bit. Do you see New England doing that? Do you see defenses struggling with that?
Yeah, I almost think there's a market for that along the offensive line. Like, you're seeing Mekhi Becton's come out. You're seeing these big-ass dudes on the offensive line that can play more now, because you're going up against, those guys can really move the line.
80 pounds on guys.
Yeah.
Like, Mekhi Becton has 80 pounds on some of the pass rushers he's seeing.
I mean, every pass rusher you see is
very
pretty
true.
much. Yeah, so.
All right, this is from Claudia. Can you rank the position groups into which you feel the most confident on your evaluations? Not just this draft, but general consensus.
Yes. Now, I don't want to say there's anywhere I'm like, yeah, I know this position.
I can't miss.
Yeah, your boy don't miss. Save that for beer dive. But the positions I feel the best about, from most confident to least confident, here we go. I'm going to break it off. Offensive line, 1. Defensive line, 2. Running back, 3. Wide receiver, tight end, 4. Cornerback, 5. Quarterback, 6. Safety, 7. Linebacker, 8. Did I hit them all? I think I hit them all.
Nice.
And the reason being for the O-line, D-line 1 and 2, and I think that's not just us. I think that's like pretty general evaluations. You get the closest thing to a baseball sample size in offensive line, defensive line. You get one-on-one interactions 30, 40 times a game. That's the only position that happens. quarterbacks dependent on so many other factors, running backs dependent on so many factors, even wide receiver cornerbacks. A lot of times running a route, you're not actually like beating a guy. You're not actually going up against a guy. You're going up against
Zone
a hole in the zone. So I think a lot of those other positions, and especially when you get to like safety and linebacker, like you're asked to do a fuck ton of things where it's like, it's going to matter so much. Like you can be very good at one aspect of the position and just trash at another. And if you're asked to do the one you're trash at far more often than the one you're good at, well, shit, you're not going to be a good player at that position. So it's like, whereas offensive line, defensive line, it's a much more simplistic. I don't want to belittle it by calling it simplistic, but it's much more
binary, I think, is the word I use. It's like there's clearer win losses, and you get a shitload of them. You get a lot of sample size of win losses in one-on-one situations.
And even like going from one scheme to another, like a pass set's still a pass set.
Yeah.
So
very true. Very true. The other positions, scheme dependent, supporting cast dependent, how they're used, all that stuff is like obviously going to affect your evaluation, just like the sample size you see. All right, this is from Chris Sims with a Z. My question is more from a philosophical team building perspective. Assume there's a generational prospect at each of the positions listed below. How high would you take them in the average draft? You had running back, off-ball linebacker, nose tackle, box safety. So all the low-value positions: guard, center, kicker, punter.
This one's tough. So I went to this year's draft board because it's an average draft is difficult to conceptualize. So this year's draft board, I mean, shit, we had a generational linebacker, in my opinion, and he was 9th in the PFF draft board. So that means there were 8 guys in this class that I would have taken prior to him, and that would have been we talked about these analyses, but 3 quarterbacks, then Sewell, Pitts, Chase, Smith, Waddle. So those 8 guys, all a little more and obviously there's guys like Sewell and Pitts that we thought were special players, but then some more premium positions like quarterback and wide receiver ahead of a generational off-ball linebacker. Nose tackle, I honestly think could be a little more valuable. I think you got a generational nose tackle. I'm not sure what that looks like. I think
Wilfork?
Yeah, like I would be willing to draft that over I would have drafted that 7th in this year's class. Now Sewell, Pitts, Chase, I think I'd all rather have than a generational nose tackle, but probably would have rather had a generational nose tackle than like a Devontae Smith. Box safety, same as linebacker. Honestly, you just play him a linebacker. Like a generational box safety in today's day and age is a linebacker. So 9th as well. Guard center, I would have put a generational guard. I would have drafted a Quentin Nelson, excuse me. Oh my God. I butchered my Notre Dame voice name. I would have drafted Quentin Nelson behind a Micah Parsons. I just would have. So generational guard center, you just don't need generational talents on the offensive line to have a good offensive line, or especially on the interior. So 10th, I would have taken on this year's draft board. Running back's the tough one because I'm trying to think of the last generational running back prospect we've seen. And things I feel like we see almost too many, like Saquon Barkley. It would have been down the list here, like late 20s, 30, something like that.
Yeah.
Like just like, you don't need to invest in that position. It's not. You'd rather take your chance on a guy who can maybe hit. Like, am I going to want a Saquon Barkley over maybe what Kwity Paye could be? He was 24th on our board. No, because Kwity Paye could be super valuable. Yeah. So running back would just be lower on that. And then kicker, punter, I mean, like 3rd, 4th round. Yeah, if you knew this guy was like special. Now, again, like kicker,
the problem
punter,
is the generation
punter is easier to analyze. Like booming kicks, but like just leg strength doesn't help. It's still accuracy in kicking. So, or booming punts is booming punts, but kicking is a little bit different in terms of like how good you feel about your evaluation. But you're like, you tell me this guy's top 3 kicker in the NFL, I'd take that in the 3rd round.
It was the last generational kicker prospect we saw, Sebastian Janikowski, drafted in the 1st.
Well, Aguayo goes 2nd.
Yeah.
So the Bucks, and he was thought of as that guy. And obviously he's not lived up to
the problem with
being
generational kicking prospects is they are very difficult to identify.
Exactly. So that's how I feel about those respective positions. 3rd might even be talking on my ass about a kicker there. That probably is a little higher.
It probably is. All right. Are the Ravens good/bad take? That's from him. I feel decently confident in my ability to watch offensive skill players and defensive backs, as I can easily find stats to back up or upend something I saw in film. What do I look for when watching linebackers on both sides of the line?
Okay. Well, obviously linebackers, I just said was the position I feel the worst about. So shit, but I do think explosiveness, first step, kind of twitch is huge there. And then from there, hip fluidity, just being a fluid athlete, that gets you a huge leg up. And after that, processing speed. How quick are they reacting to a pulling guard? How quick are they biting on a play action fake versus, seeing that it's play action and getting back to where they're supposed to be? I think that's a massive part of playing the linebacker position, is just playing fast. So I'd say those three things are most important to look for to start. And then obviously like tackling form. There's a lot of else that goes into playing linebacker, but it is becoming a position that's very much just traits bit. It is like a size, length, speed gets you a lot of play at the linebacker position. Now, offensive line, I would argue is almost, I don't want to say the opposite, but it is a skill-based thing. You are looking for guys who have balance, guys who use their hands well, guys who sustained with their hands really well, and guys who are consistent down to down. Those are big things for playing offensive line. Get off, explosiveness, people moving ability, not nearly as important. Defensive line, another athletic based position. Your get off, your ability to bend, your ability to be flexible. And then from there, hand placement. How well do you get that engaged? Do you make that first strike consistently? I think that's very important at that position. You can only go so far with hand usage. A lot of it's like an innate coordination aspect to the position that the best ones have.
Another break from the sponsors here. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you a chance to lower the over-under on a featured playoff game. All players who place a bet on the featured basketball game will have a hand in lowering the over-under on the game. That's right. For every 1,500 players who bet the over on a select game, the over-under will drop by 1 point. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code PFF when you sign up and hammer the over. For every 1,500 people that bet the over in the featured game, the line will decrease by 1 point. Yes, this is your chance to improve the odds of the over hitting. So tell your friends and family, this is a team effort. Hammer the over and improve your odds of doubling your money. That's promo code PFF for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. Restrictions apply. Max $25 wager, one per customer. Offer ends 5/3/21. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Next question here. I love this question. This is fantastic. This is from Christian Paulicelli. If you took an all-Alabama team and put them up against an all-Clemson team, who would win? I don't think this is particularly close. I'm going Clemson. Alabama every single time.
Yeah, sadly, I was like, dude, Clemson's got the quarterbacks. Like, you got Sean, you got Trevor Lawrence. Like, that part of the game, not even close. But here's what Clemson breaks down. Clemson's had 3 offensive linemen drafted in the past 8 years, I want to say. Here would be their starting offensive line of guys in the NFL right now. Jack Carman at left tackle, John Simpson at left guard, Tyler Shatley at center, Mitch Hyatt at right guard, and Tremaine Ankrum at right tackle. Don't feel bad if you don't recognize some of those names, because there's one starter on that list.
That's bad.
It's bad. It's one NFL starter. Here's what Bama's offensive line would look like. It'd be Jedrick Wills at left tackle, Cam Robinson at left guard, Ryan Kelly at center, Alex Leatherwood at right guard, Jonah Williams at right tackle. That's a little different. It's
a lot different.
It's a little bit better. Yeah, their worst offensive lineman's probably on par with Clemson's best. So that would kind of change the game. And then you flip over to the defensive line where you got John Allen, Deron Payne. Like, Bama's got dogs. Like,
the trenches, they've been dominating the trenches for a long time.
That's why they are Bama. So they dominate the trenches, and they would still dominate the trenches at the NFL level. Clemson, they have a fairly good defensive line themselves. Obviously, you got Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, Clem Farrell, Shaq, whatever.
Shaq Lawson.
I always forget his last name. But yeah, you would have a fine defensive line, but your offensive line would just get their shit pushed in.
All right, this is from Chris Brown's fan 090909. Do you think
he loves Chris Brown or he loves the Browns?
It's hard to say. It's honestly hard to say. I'm going to lean Chris Brown. No, I'm just kidding.
we did attract a big Chris Brown demo.
Do you think that we should, so I think it's the Browns, do you think the Browns should date more like?
No, it's human beings.
Oh, it's human beings. Do you think
That's why
that
this is an evergreen one.
Do you think that we should date more like the way we draft, making a list of prospective girls and rank them via the traits/skills they have? Sometimes the relationship will bust.
That's how I date. Like that's what I do. So if you think my idiocy just extends to the draft, and no, it goes way deeper. So and also it doesn't work. So no, we shouldn't do it. It hasn't worked for me.
I think that for you, your type is definitely all the traits in the world. And you find out the off field is a disaster.
Traits. I'm super traits.
Off field comes in, you're like, wait a second, you can't read a book.
If only.
You're like, oh my gosh, she's got the 40 times, she's got it all.
See, I got no production grades though to lean back on.
True.
Like I can't tell how they've been producing over the course of, I don't know.
See, I look for their
academic career.
I'm not
possibly.
Gonna get into this. I'm definitely high effort, high motor on my end, but
yeah,
I need to identify more traits wholesale. Look at SPARK scores and those types of things. I think that would help me out a ton. But you need the off field, man. You need to do more of the interview process.
I do need to vet more.
You don't vet at all.
Vet the background.
You got to vet the background. Sometimes the background can be dicey. All right, this is from Gavin T3. If you are in need of a slot wide receiver, is it best to draft the top slot specific wide receiver or the best overall wide receiver to be your number 2, even if he doesn't fit the mold?
So if it's a number two is different from slot. Slot's a number 3, in my opinion. If we were like saying 1, 2, 3, slots are 3. Because a guy like Cole Beasley is coming off in 2 wide receiver sets. He's not going to be on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. I'm not a massive fan of slot onlys. I think a lot of guys who are good outside wide receivers can also win from the slot.
100%.
But I will say that this is a scheme-specific question, and 2, I think a lot of slot onlys could work on the outside. They're just pigeonholed as slot onlys, like we talked about with Elijah Moore. Like there are guys that I think can do it, just aren't given the opportunity. So those kind of go back and forth. Those are competing. But if you were just debating between a guy who you know is going to be a Cole Beasley, you're on the open market. You want a Cole Beasley or a Corey Davis? Who am I going to pay more? I'm probably going to pay Corey Davis more.
Yeah.
You know, like if I have just one guy as my starter, I'm probably going to want Corey. I'm going to want Corey Davis before I want Cole Beasley, because the Cole Beasley of the world, not to say he's not a great slot receiver, skill set's not as rare. Like there are a lot of guys that can run that skill set because it doesn't take the same physical tools. Like you don't have to be as athletic and you don't have to be as big. Mm-hmm. So like as soon as a lot of different guys can fill that role, more body types can fill that role, you have a larger pool to select from. And so it's not then as rare skill set. There you go.
If you can make changes, this is from Idaho Sun. If you can make changes to the draft or draft process, what would they be? For example, what if the worst 16 teams got the first 32 picks, two each? The top 16 teams, they would get the next 64 picks, 4 each. And then the worst 16 would get the next 64 picks. The next 32 would go again to the top 16. And finally, the teams would get a pick in the last round. It might speed up rebuilding. I would also get rid of the comp picks and the 5th-year options in round 1.
That would be atrocious. I'm sorry. That would be wild. Like there would be that tanking for the 16th pick then. You know, you're like you're on the edge of 16, 17. It's like, I got to lose. So I do like, if there were anything, I think an auction.
Yes.
For like a top 10 auction, or to some degree, in terms of, I don't know what you would auction. Would it be cap space, whatnot? But like,
I think an auction for the entire draft.
Or an entire draft, but I do think like a lottery system where like instead of just like to promote not tanking, but to like if you're in the top 13, you can like wager portions of your cap space or something to go up and get, because like it would behoove teams who need quarterbacks to go up for them to be able to still get them, even if they're like the 8th, 9th overall.
Also,
pick,
the rookies would benefit from that.
Yes, and also like the high end guys who kind of maybe get screwed by the rookie wage scale being as good as they are, or thought to be as good as they are, then get screwed by that. So I think some sort of auction aspect to it would be cool, because then you add another day. Like that's like another thing altogether. It's like we're auctioning 4 draft spots at the top or something. I don't know how that would work exactly, but
I think auctioning for pure players, and then like you're legitimately like we're offering this contract to Trevor Lawrence, and they're like, we're going to offer this contract to Trevor Lawrence, and it's up to Trevor Lawrence to make that decision. I do think that would be pretty sick. I think that would make a ton of sense. Also, I think it would be fun to watch. That would be an interesting experience for sure. Yeah. And I think then it wouldn't be teams tanking for draft capital. Teams would be not spending to spend in the following draft. You know, it's like, hey, our roster isn't good enough. Our quarterback's not good enough. We're not going to spend a ton of money in free agency. We're not going to take advantage of the cheat code that is the rookie contract. We're not going to spend so that way we approach the draft auction with a ton of money and can go chase a Trevor Lawrence or whatever it may be. Then talk about busts. Can you imagine the busts after you spend like a ton of money on a guy and then you're like locked in? Just like crippling franchises by like overspending on a guy. It could be pretty sweet. All right. This is from Matt Steamed Rice. What's up, guys? Can you rank the positions from most stable from year to year to least stable?
I literally sent Eric Eager a DM. Dr. Eric Eager, excuse me.
Got to bring up the doctor.
I don't know his exact title. Data scientist, president of
Don't worry about
R&D.
it. Don't worry about it.
That's what he is, president of R&D. Hopefully he's not listening. That was butchered. But he gave me the list. So it goes like this: from most to least stable. Defensive tackle, tight end, quarterback, edge, guard, running back, wide receiver, linebacker, center, offensive tackle, safety, cornerback. That was electric.
That wasn't.
I don't know about you.
I'm not surprised by the last two.
Still buzzing.
Defensive backs being very volatile your role is very scheme dependent, pass rush dependent, all of that. Like
So here's how I like to describe it. Here's why it's so volatile and the other's not. Defensive line. So the reason why DT edge are so high, it's win dependent. It's a position where your win rate dictates basically how well you performed. Cornerback, it's your loss rate. And it's not only loss rate, your loss rate is super high variance in that a loss can be a 10-yard first down. A loss can be a 90-yard touchdown. Mm-hmm. A loss on defensive line is a loss no matter what. It doesn't result in anything different. Mm-hmm. A win can be
a loss on the defensive line can be overlooked.
A sack, pressure, hit, hurry, whatever. They're all like very similar in vein in that they're not swinging very wildly in how much they impact the game. But one loss at cornerback, like I said, can be wildly different. It can be just a 5-yard defensive hold, or it can be, like I said, a 90-yard touchdown. And that's why you give up a couple of those. You give up a couple 90-yard touchdowns in a year, you had a shitty year. Yeah. It's like flat out, you just did. And that's why it's such a difficult position year in year to be.
That's a very good point.
You have to be consistently not losing. And sometimes your losses can be very, very bad. That's why it's variable.
That makes sense. All right. This is from Sock Fudge. What's up, guys? Love the pod. It's one of my staples. What do you guys think of my theory that Russ came up with this trade request in order to stir up the media and distract from the fact that he forgot how to play the position of quarterback in the second half of last year?
No. Russell Wilson truly is
upset.
The lamest dude in the NFL right now. He wants to be thought of as the coolest dude, though. That's the problem. It's you can't force being thought of as the coolest guy, but he wants to force his way into being thought of as this top 5 quarterback of all time. And so he's attempting to, when in actuality, like, I think he's pretty accurately thought of at this point in his career. Like, he's a very, very good NFL quarterback. He is not a top 5 quarterback of all time. He's not up there with the echelon of even the guys playing the game today with like the Rodgerses, the Brady's in the annals of history. So I just think that he has a odd sense of self, Russ.
Absolutely.
And he's dead serious about wanting to go elsewhere, to like realize that even when if you went to Chicago with Matt Nagy and what they have there offensively, I'm not sure it's going to be much different, if not probably even worse than what he'd have there in Seattle this upcoming year.
All right, PFF has partnered with Symbol, SIMBULL, the stock market for sports that allows you to trade sports teams like stocks and earn cash payouts when your teams win. Symbol has blended sports and the stock market to offer you the new way to invest and profit on your favorite teams. The MLB is in full swing for the rest of the summer, allowing you to earn daily cash payouts, and NFL free agency is still going on. So whoever lands a top of the market player will be sure to see their team's stock rise. Use promo code PFF and deposit $10 at symbol.app/PFF to earn a free PFF annual subscription. That's promo code PFF with a $10 deposit at symbol.app/PFF to earn a free annual subscription from PFF.com. Symbol, the way to go long on a team. You know, you want to bet futures and stuff like that. Invest in the Raiders now, and in a few years' time, it could be good. Eventually, who knows? It could be 3 years' time. You know, you're 10 there. 10 years' time. Symbol is where you go for that. All right, next question here is from Jacob Archer 22. U of O student here, SCO Ducks, but I have 2 questions for you. First, how does Kayvon Thibodeau stack up against some prior top-ranked edge guys like Myles Garrett, Young, etc.? And with you guys being so high on Tibbs, is it more of a projection of what he will be this upcoming season?
Yeah, it's more of a projection. Like it's the physical tools that he has. It obviously very good, but to me, he's a ways off of the Bosa's and Chase Young, who are probably the three best. The Bosa's, Chase Young, and Myles Garrett. That's like a tier in their own right of guys where it's just like they got it all. They're gonna be damn good NFL players. To me, Thibodeau is just probably more like Bradley Chubb, where Bradley Chubb, very, very good college player. You're still just like left not being quite as certain about how he projects to the NFL and the dominance you'll see in the NFL. And he's been very good. Don't get me wrong, Bradley Chubb has been good, but I think he's also been a ways off of Bosa, Young, and even Garrett in terms of how he started his career. So that's where he's in that second tier right now of edge prospects. I'm trying to think of who else would be in that tier of guys like that over the course of. I'm not coming up with names, so just go ahead.
Seth Galina had the quote today that came out on social that he will break the trend of the top pick being a quarterback.
I saw that. I disagree.
Disagree?
And no one breaks that trend.
Fair.
That's what we just talked about with that first question about quarterbacks. It's like if a Spencer Rattler's there, it's going to be Spencer Rattler. Someone's going to give you too much for it. Teams have learned their lesson after that Myles Garrett draft, where it's just like, shit, we can't be passing on Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes.
This is, again, from Jacob Archer. He had two questions. More of a fun question. But what would an offense that only passes the ball look like? No running backs on the field, just 5 wide receiver or 4 wide receivers and a tight end. Would that offense be able to take the league by storm for a year, or would teams quickly figure it out? Obviously depends on personnel, too. P.S. Come to Eugene for games sometime. It's an underrated stadium, and we can run you and Mike in some beer night. Not a chance, kid.
Yeah.
But I've been to Autzen Stadium. It's dope. I would definitely.
Have you? I have not.
It's sick. I would definitely be down to go to Eugene if it wasn't such a trek.
It is a trek, but I would love to get out there for a game.
I'd also not lose in beer die.
Yeah, we also wouldn't lose in beer die. But I would suggest, I'd say go watch. I mean, Oregon. You've probably seen some Mike Leach. Like that's the premise of his offense that he ran at Washington State, Mississippi State. They don't call runs. They call passes. And you run if the box count says run. And so the problem with
tackles have like 700 pass sets a year.
Here's the thing. That's the problem with that is that you're putting your offensive line in a difficult spot. You have to have Cowboys 2015 offensive line. You got to have a top 3 offensive line in the NFL to get by like that. It's just not enough teams do to be able to run your offense like that, where he's like this guy's saying, pass every time. Every play's a pass play. 4 wide out, 5 wide out every play. You're just putting so much stress on them. And we saw this year what happens basically when Mississippi State, with not a disastrous offensive line, but a below average SEC offensive line, just gets taken in the fucking woodshed. It's just you're putting so much stress on your quarterbacks and your offensive line that I don't think we're going to see it at the NFL anytime soon. It's just
the other part of it too, and I think it's some of what you said earlier about the air raid being very simple and like it's predetermined for you and stuff like that. It's like passing the ball as often as you would is very mentally taxing on the quarterback. If you're not running an air raid type of system, like you can't run complex concept after complex concept. You're going to see some levels of mental fatigue from your quarterback if he's throwing 50 plus times a game in a very complex system. Like the air raid, it's simple pitch and catch a lot of the way, but I don't think you could run a different passing attack that many times a game. I think Eric Eager,
it's like playing Augusta. Yeah, dude's just like he's fucking out. He has to grind out 18 holes every time.
You're not ready. You're not ready. I think Eric has brought up like you need to run the football kind of like you need sleep. You know, you kind of need like to reset your mind offensively. You need to reset certain things offensively. I don't think the quarterback would be able to handle it, and neither would the offensive line. All right, this is from Wild Dog 37. Who's your all-time out of position team? Meaning guys who weren't great at the positions they played, but could have been a lot better had they played a different position. Go ahead.
I couldn't think of a ton of great ones because I was like, it's an odd question, but I thought I came with a few. Now these guys were okay at the positions they played, or good in some cases even, but I would like to have seen them play different positions. First one was Calais Campbell play offensive tackle. I would love to see that guy play offensive tackle. I thought he's not a super high level athlete and still wins so well, like with his hands, so coordinated on the defensive side of the ball and so like strong. I just would love to see what he could do at offensive tackle. And obviously at 6'9", 300 pounds, has the body for it. John Ross, the cornerback, Marvin Lewis, Bengals head coach, great, wanted to do this. Literally wanted to do it with a top 10 pick. And in retrospect, probably should have stuck with it because he was just cheeks at wide receiver. So this dude, 4.22 speed, obviously change direction ability off the charts, but couldn't run the correct route, save his life. So cornerback would have been fun to see him play. Cam Newton to either tight end or DE would have been fun. Now, obviously, he's a very good quarterback. Nothing against him there, but man, 6'5", 248, ran a 4.56, 6.92 cone. He was an elite athlete. Could have been a hell of a tight end. And we obviously saw that back at Auburn when he had that touchdown catch. And then Tim Tebow to linebacker. Tight end was the wrong position. Tebow was always a linebacker.
How much does he weigh?
It's like 235.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Tebow's a horse. 6'2", 235. He ran a 4.7 coming out. 6'6", 6'3 cone. 38.5-inch vertical.
He ran the Devil's 3 cone?
He ran the Devil's 3 cone. This dude could have been, I mean, ironic, right? But that guy would have been an elite linebacker. No doubt in my mind. And with the leadership qualities, my Lord.
Dude, he would have been legitimately he would probably been like a legit good
Zach
linebacker.
Thomas 2.0. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Tim Tebow would have actually been. Tight end was never his position. It was linebacker.
There you go. All right, this is from Best Jam.
Oh, and I had a couple guys that I also think just played in the wrong generation. Mike Vick in today's day and age with the offenses now.
Oh, man.
Monster. And then Santana Moss with today's offenses. Santana Moss, if you go back and watch Santana Moss, he is basically just looks like Jalen Waddle before Jalen Waddle. He would have been awesome in today's day and age, but they stuck him just like outside wide receiver and said, go run full route tree. You're 5'10", 180. No, would have worked a lot better in 3 wide sets nowadays. Yeah.
All right, this is from Best Gem Ever. Second question from Mike.
Oh, the first question was about something that was draft related.
Oh, okay. I haven't gotten a haircut since right before the pandemic started. I've gotten to shoulder length hair now. And since you used to have long hair, what advice do you have for when I do finally get a trim? I want to keep it long, but I used to go to supercuts when I had short hair, and I assume that's no longer an option. Please guide me here.
Don't go to supercuts.
That's good advice regardless of where your hair is right now.
If you were getting just like a straight buzz and that looks good on you, by all means.
Buzz it yourself.
If they're okay, buzz it yourself. What are we talking about here? But I would do some research. Go to a well-reviewed barber in your area.
Dude, this is
somebody
a well-thought
specializes
answer.
in men's hair. If not, like before even a supercuts, go to a salon. Like they will cut men's hair there better than they will at supercuts. And this is gonna sound dumb, and you're gonna be embarrassed to do it. But bring in pictures of what you want it to look like. First time I ever did that, I was like, God, this is like, I hate that I'm doing this. But bring it out. Say, this is what I want. Honestly, bring in a few, because sometimes your hair will not, like, it will be like wavy and the person's in the pictures is straight or whatnot. Go in, show them pictures of what you want. Like I said, preferably multiple, and say this, because that'll give you a much better idea of what you actually want, and you'll get a much better result.
I did that with my mustache before Vegas. I had them trim it to like a similar, I don't know what picture I showed, but I wanted it to be like a similar stash. And
you showed Ron Jeremy.
I showed Ron Jeremy. It's exactly what I showed. No, but I do think that the pictures is a good call.
Yes.
Pictures is a great call.
It's gonna feel dumb. It's gonna feel like shit. You're gonna hate like that 5 seconds of awkward interaction, but it'll be worth it.
Way worth it. All right, this is from Vanden Vale. I'm a kid from Baltimore, and all my friends and family are Ravens fans. And I've been a huge Bengals fan my whole life. Damn. I'm going to my first game this season. So where's the best pregame bar at tailgates to hit before the game?
You got to go to the Banks.
You
got to go to the Banks, especially now that the Dora is open, the designated outdoor freshman area. Basically, you can drink outside.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. It's been fantastic. It just opened. I live right there. The bars I would suggest, Holy Grail is easily the best for watching games. If like you're going after the Bengals
Sunday
game, after the Bengals game, easily best for watching games. Stretch has become my new favorite since they added the outdoor area to Stretch, because it used to be so packed, and it's all right there on the Banks also. But now they have like a big outdoor area as well, and so that is my new favorite bar down there. But those are both great bars to go to. If you're tailgating, I go to the Longworth lot. It's easy to get in and out of. It's pretty big. Gets a little rowdy there. You see guys jumping on tables and whatnot. That would be where I would recommend. So
go right to the Banks.
Kitties.
And Kitties is
Kitties is not fun.
It's like a local. It's
no,
more
I
of
like
a local.
Kitties. Kitties is good.
It's fine, but the Banks is.
You go to the Banks, you go to Holy Grail, and go to Stretch,
yeah.
and then you tailgate at Longworth, and you're in for a good time. And then you get Skyline Chili to boot. Skyline Chili to
literally boot. To puke.
To literally puke. To literally throw up after the game. All right, this is from Steph Backs Threes. Got any advice for a high school student who's interested in working in the front office or analysis side of football, either with a team or something like PFF? I'm a big math person and find sports data analytics really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you like math, I'd go get a math degree, some sort of statistics, whatever you want to get a degree in. Like, that's not nearly as big a deal as the getting connections and learning football side of things. Not a lot of people get math degrees. A lot of people love football and have analytics or analytically driven backgrounds, not a lot of people that know the game of football well. So that's one of the biggest things that I recommend to anyone who wants to work in the space is like know the X's and O's and like how the game works inside and out helps. And so if you're not in college or you're in high school, I would recommend joining. I know at Notre Dame, they had a student manager program that was like very active and was a very good program for getting connections inside of like the football offices and like getting grad assistant jobs and that sort of thing afterwards. So if I would look into where you're applying if they have programs like that. Those are very good for. I believe Charlie Weiss got his start as a student manager. Yes. So
I think learning football is a great call, and like ways to do it. I think you can get creative. I think the student manager call is fantastic. I also think read recommended books like the Art of Football books that we've talked about. The Chris Brown books are great. I also think getting creative by listening to podcasts like ours and other really good football podcasts. The QB School from JT O'Sullivan. Seth Galina does a really good college football podcast called the PFF College Football Podcast. So finding creative ways to listen to and talk to people that also know football will help you a ton. Like immersing yourself in football is going to help you there. And if you're in high school, again, I think you made a great point. Go pursue a mathematics degree and pick up skills. Pick up skills in coding, whether that's R, Python, SQL. Pick up skills in Adobe and these different things.
And you, like I said, wherever you go, get involved with the football program there. That'll help you out a lot.
Yeah. Even if you're freaking picking up towels in the locker room, it's going to help you be around. Immerse yourself is a good way of looking at it. Immerse yourself. All right, last question here. This is from John Doe 24413, and I'm so excited for this question.
I really couldn't believe this question
because I just discovered it.
Yeah.
What's the best place for tacos in Cincinnati? And before, this answer would have been, I guess it's Bakersfield, which is good. I would say Frida's, but it's not technically in Cincinnati. Bakersfield's okay. The best tacos in Cincinnati are at Sayso OTR, or Bar Sayso, I think is what it's called. It's a new bar in Cincinnati that just opened up in October. They have a taco truck in the back that is objectively the best tacos in Cincinnati. They're on par, rival tacos I've had in San Diego. They have birria tacos, which you can't get birria tacos anywhere in Cincinnati. I don't even think, most people don't even know if that's a real thing.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, they are unreal. I went there twice in one weekend. They are that good. The Cincinnati tacos, big shout out to Bar Sayso. They're doing it right. That place is fantastic.
The truck is called Pata Roja.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
Pata Roja.
Regardless,
they
like
set
a
up shop.
permanent fixture outside of Bar Sayso.
They set up shop at Bar Sayso. And Bar Sayso in and of itself is a cool bar.
Yeah.
It's a great date spot. If you're looking to bring a date, honestly, it's a great date spot for the summer.
Might have to.
Might have to do it. The best tacos in Cincinnati by far. Bar Sayso, 100%. What a fantastic question to finish the mailbag off of. When we get back on Thursday, or I think we're recording Wednesday, actually.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Recording Wednesday, going to continue to look at the draft, going to continue to look at some things, but we need to start previewing this NFL season, man. We need to start looking at, I want to do some power ranking stuff. I want to do some division odds stuff. I want to look at who's actually winning this upcoming season. I also want to rip through some fantastic rookie minicamp quotes that we've gotten so far. I don't know if you saw Patrick Surtain, why he went to rookie minicamp, because I'm a rookie. Some of the stuff that's being put out right now is just such good, fluffy clickbait that I can't wait to talk about.
Dude, how much shit, though, is I don't want to shit on the NFLPA, but they're them trying to tell rookies not to go to rookie minicamp. Like, they've been shitting on rookies the past decade. They have the rookie wage scale, bones rookies. And it's like, if I was a rookie coming in the NFL, I'd be like, fuck you. Like, I'm going to go. You're putting me, it's like the veterans are putting you behind the 8 ball telling you not to go. They're just like, they want your jobs. Like, that is a shit. Like, I would not be listening to their advice. Not to say either one's right or wrong, but if I were in their shoes, I would be fucking rookie minicamp right now too. Last thing here, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. If you leave a question on Apple Podcasts, the mailbags are gonna be back. Mailbags are back. Post-draft mailbags are back. Make sure to leave a question on our mailbag. We'll make sure to answer that when we get to it. Also, listen to the other podcasts at PFF. PFF has a ton of podcasts. I was on the NFL podcast today. There's also the Ian Hartitz Fantasy Football podcast. Seth Galina has the College Football podcast. Kevin Cole does Unexpected Points. Chris Collinsworth has a podcast with Richard Sherman. A lot of good podcasts here at PFF. Make sure you rate and review and subscribe to all of those. Leave a question for the mailbags. Until next time, Austin Gale, Mike Renner, David Safaro, Mike Quinn, 2-for-1 Drafts.